Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live at the very heart of power, yet remain invisible your entire life? To stand so close to the throne that you could hear every whispered secret, but be so far removed from humanity that you no longer remember what it feels like to be called by name, to be seen by someone, or simply to exist as a person. Tonight, I invite you to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and follow me into a story that history rarely mentions. This is not a tale of emperors or generals. There is no war, no fire, no blood. It's simply the story of one man. A man who was once a boy who gave up everything, his voice, his future, even his body, just to earn a place inside the Forbidden City. He lived in silence, not because he chose to, but because silence was the only language he was allowed to speak. No one called his name. No one looked him in the eye. He wasn't remembered. He was only used when needed. He was a eunuch. And this is his world. We go back now to 18th century China. The Qing dynasty is at the height of its power. Beijing, the empire's beating heart, moves with rituals, rules, and a silence so deep it becomes unsettling. At the center of the city lies the Forbidden City, a massive maze of golden roofs and crimson walls where even the wind seems to know how to bow. It is a place of splendor. It is also a place of fear. And for those who live inside, it is a prison wrapped in silk. In a small room, hidden deep in a quiet corner of the palace, a man wakes before the first light of dawn. He doesn't stretch. He doesn't yawn. He simply sits up, slowly, carefully, just as he's done every day for the past 30 years. The room is sparse, a cold stone floor, a wooden bench, an old teapot long gone cold. Bare walls, no mirror, and no need for one. There's a soft knock, 3 gentle taps, familiar and routine. A young servant places a breakfast tray, a bowl of plain rice porridge and a steamed bun. No greeting, no "did you sleep well?" Here, there is no room for emotional courtesies. He eats slowly. Steam from the porridge rises, mixing with the faint jasmine scent of the cold tea. Outside it is still dark. In the distance, a bell rings to begin the morning ritual. The soft sweep of fabric, the quiet sound of his own breath, and nothing more. He stands, puts on his robe. It is clean but plain, the color of the nameless. Hands folded in front of him, eyes cast down. He steps out into the hallway. Each footstep floats, light and silent. Because in the Forbidden City, everything echoes, even mistakes. And just like that, another day begins. A day exactly like the one before, and the one before that. Ever since he was a boy, stepping through the palace gates for the first time. Tonight, if you're still awake, walk with him. Through red brick corridors, silent gardens, and rituals that never seem to end, see what power looks like when it has cost you your entire self. Live alongside him for just one day. One full day, filled with breath, with weariness, inside the quiet hell beneath the emperor's shadow. Welcome to the world of the imperial eunuch, a world of whispers, of rules, of beauty stripped of its soul. And now, if your mind has settled, if your eyes have begun to soften, let's continue. In the imperial palace, everything begins with stillness. Not the kind of silence born from peace, but a deliberate kind, as if the entire space is holding its breath, waiting for permission to exist. When he steps out of his room, the sky hasn't fully lightened. Behind the golden rooftops, the sky looks like mist. Lanterns along the corridor still flicker, their dim light casting shifting shadows of faceless figures on the walls. He does not look up. His eyes remain lowered. His feet never fully lift from the ground, only glide, just enough to make no sound, just enough to avoid drawing attention. Eunuchs like him are not meant to attract the eye. They must be like the wind, present, but unseen. Today he's been assigned to inspect the wardrobe of the fourth consort. It's considered an important task. Only senior eunuchs are trusted to handle the belongings of imperial concubines, not because of rank, but because of trust, and because they've already given up enough to no longer pose a threat. The walk from the inner court to the Jingren Hall isn't far, but it requires passing through 3 layers of corridors, 2 side gates, and 4 security stops where he must present his clearance. At each stop, he bows, just slightly, barely arching his back, eyes cast toward his sleeve. The gatekeepers recognize him. No one greets him, but they all remember. In the palace, memory is a weapon, and a passing glance is enough to record who went where, when, and with whom. By the time he reaches the wardrobe room, morning light has begun to seep in. It filters through paper screens, casting soft golden stripes onto the stone floor. The air holds the scent of dried cinnamon mixed with brocade fabrics and aged sandalwood. He opens each drawer, inspects each item: hairpins, silk sashes, inner linings, handkerchiefs, embroidered cloth. He's not searching for anything specific, but he misses nothing. No one supervises this task anymore. He's done it more times than he can remember his own face in the mirror. When it's done, he records everything on a wooden board, then leaves, just as quietly as he came. By noon, he returns to the mid-ranking eunuch quarters. Lunch is already laid out: a bowl of plain rice, a dish of pickled greens, a few pieces of tofu, and mustard green soup. No one speaks during meals. The sound of spoons tapping bowls is the only rhythm in the room. He eats slowly, chewing thoroughly, not out of pleasure, but from long-learned restraint, a necessary skill to survive in this place. After lunch comes what's called the quiet hour, midday rest. But no one truly rests. Everyone pretends to relax, but ears remain open, eyes half watching, and minds always alert. He chooses to sit beneath an old pomegranate tree where sunlight peeks through the leaves, dotting his sleeve with soft yellow patches. A moment later, footsteps approach. A younger eunuch comes near, offers a subtle nod, and sits 2 stone steps away. Neither of them speaks. They simply sit, in silence, in a quiet understanding that sometimes presence needs no words. In the afternoon, he is called to the kitchen to check the ingredients for the evening banquet. The air is thick with the aroma of soy sauce, chicken fat, star anise, and cardamom, rich yet oddly comforting. He checks the inventory, notes it on a bamboo slip, then retreats without a word. Dusk falls. A soft breeze moves through wooden windows, carrying the distant sound of a pipa being practiced somewhere in the palace. Lanterns are lit. Each room glows with a warm golden light, not bright enough to see clearly, but just warm enough to keep the cold at bay. He returns to his room. Nothing has changed. The tea has been poured. It's cold. His hands tremble slightly as he lifts the cup, but he doesn't spill it. He sits down and takes a slow sip. His eyes drift toward the wall, where lantern light flickers like the breath of someone sleeping. Another day has passed. No one called his name. No one acknowledged the work he did. And yet, he remains, still present, still quietly surviving. And now, as your eyelids grow heavy while listening to my voice, remember, somewhere in history there was someone like him. Someone who never got to be himself, but who lived, through silence, through discipline, through a kind of unseen strength, to keep the palace world running, just as it always has. Sleep well, my friend. Everything is still. Everything has always been this way. And tomorrow, the sun will rise once again over golden rooftops, and people like him will continue their silent walk. Evenings in the palace are always quiet. The air seems to slow down. Oil lamps cast a thin golden hue over the gray brick walls, soft like mist. A gentle breeze slips through the window slats, brushing against wood and fabric, cool as a day's final breath. He sits there, in his small room, holding a cup of cold tea, his eyes fixed on the corner of the wall where the light flickers with the rhythm of the wind. Everything is still. Everything is as it has always been. No one calls his name. No one needs him. And yet, he remains, still here, still present among all things that go unnamed. And it is in that very moment, when no one is watching, when the palace outside has shut itself like a sealed book, that memory begins to speak. Memory, in this world, is not something one is allowed to keep. It's a luxury. In the Forbidden City, people live by rules, by ritual, by repetition. No one is permitted to carry the past. But he remembers. Not everything, just fragments, scattered and faded like old dreams, like moonlight stirred on water. He remembers being a boy, the day his father held his hand and walked him down a dirt road to the county town, where eunuchs were being recruited. His mother didn't come. She stood behind the wooden gate, clutching her sleeve, eyes red but dry. No one cried in his family. Tears never helped anything. That was the day he became the chosen one. That's what people said. Chosen. It sounded like an honor. But he remembers exactly how it felt when the cold blade touched his skin. No honor had ever hurt that much. The smell of blood, ash, boiling ginger water, the sound of labored breathing from the assistant who held his legs down. All of it etched into his memory like a tattoo that could never fade. After that day, he was no longer a child, no longer a boy. He became something else, a being without a name, without a birthday, without a single day to call his own. The days that followed were filled with lessons: how to bow, how to walk lightly, how to speak softly, how to look down, how to live like part of a wall, present but unseen. And yet, deep within his mind, there's a small corner he's never let anyone enter. In that corner, the memories still live, simple, fragile, but enough to remind him that once he was just a regular person. He remembers the crackling of straw burning in his mother's kitchen, the scent of smoke clinging to his hair, the sound of roosters at dawn, dogs barking at strangers in the lane, the joy of running, falling, getting back up, without fear of punishment. Sometimes he even dreams. In the dream, he is a father, holding his child close, wiping sweat from its forehead after a long afternoon of play. The dream is as gentle as morning mist, and when he wakes, because here, people do not live by memory, they do not live by dreams, they live by duty, by the right hour, the right ritual, the right role. But he keeps those things in his heart, not to share, not to tell, only to remember just enough to know that he's still alive, not just as a shadow, but as someone who once existed outside these palace walls. And if tonight you're still listening in silence, imagine this. Somewhere within those crimson walls, there is a man who sits quietly, guarding a small flame, not to warm himself, but to keep from fading away. Because sometimes, memory alone is enough to keep a person alive, even in a world that forbids it. Memory keeps him alive. But not all memories exist to recall the past. Some are born to help him read the present, to recognize things no one teaches, no one ever puts into words. He holds no official power, no seal, no title, but he has something those high-ranking officials outside the palace walls often lack: time. 30 years inside the Forbidden City have taught him this: real power doesn't come from the throne. It comes from knowing who stands close to it. He doesn't need to give orders. All he needs is to be in the right place at the right moment, to overhear a sentence between two handmaidens, to catch a fleeting look of hesitation during a report. These small fragments, pieced together, give him a silent map of the palace. Who desires what? Who is hiding something? Who is about to fall? And who is about to rise? People often think of eunuchs as weak, cut off from manhood, fading like useless shadows. But in truth, they are the ones who best understand how to survive in a system that allows no mercy. And survival, long survival, is its own kind of strength. He has never commanded anyone, but sometimes a gentle reminder, a slow glance, is enough to keep a maid awake all night in fear. He has never tattled, but one well-timed silence has cost a steward his position for failing to prepare the banquet properly. He does nothing. He's simply there, watching, listening, remembering, letting others believe he doesn't exist. In the Forbidden City, everyone wants to be seen, to be noticed, to be praised, to be known. But he chooses to fade back, to blur, to become a shadow among those whose names shine the brightest. And because of that, no one pays attention when he walks by. No one hides things when he stands nearby. No one guards against a man who has already stripped himself of everything just to endure. But he knows that is the safest place to be. Safe to observe, safe to endure, and when necessary, safe enough to shift things quietly, without leaving a trace. That sentence was never recorded. No one wrote it in the official history. But that young eunuch later became head of the imperial household, and he remained in his same old room, walking the same quiet path each day. No one called his name, but no one dared pass him without a bow. In a world where words are often used as weapons, silence, when wielded well, is the sharpest blade of all. And for 30 years he has honed that blade, until it could cut through even the things no one dares to speak aloud. No sword, no seal, just time, depth, stillness. That is all it takes to move everything without holding anything. And now, as night falls once again, as the wind slips through stone corridors and lanterns begin to tremble with each gust, he sits down once more, teacup in hand, heart as calm as a still lake. He knows tomorrow will be the same. But in that invisible repetition, he is not lost. He is the one keeping the rhythm steady, not through power, but through understanding, through memories no one is allowed to keep, through a presence so faint yet so irreplaceable, like the last trace of light lingering after every other lamp in the palace has gone out. Tonight, the air is colder than usual, not because the wind is stronger, but because something inside him feels as though it's shifting, softly, subtly, just enough to make him sit a little longer at the tea table than he normally would. The room remains the same: gray stone walls, a small oil lamp, tea gone cold. But within him, something is no longer the same. He can feel it clearly, something approaching, not in sound, not in form, but in a stillness thicker than on any other night. He sits that way for a full watch of the night, doing nothing, thinking of nothing specific, just feeling the slow rhythm of his heartbeat, each beat, one by one, like the distant echo of a night watch drum. When was the last time he heard that drum? How many years has it been? Perhaps long enough that it now only exists as a faint echo in memory, a beat that calls no one, opens no gate, but simply exists to remind him that time still moves. He looks toward the shadow of himself cast on the stone wall, long, thin, trembling in the lamplight. A shadow at last, returning to its true nature. No form, no name, only visible when light is present. And when the light goes out, it too disappears. He does not fear this. He is not sad. He has no regret. He simply accepts it, as he has accepted everything since the day he entered this place, since the moment he gave up the right to be a person in exchange for the right to simply exist. Out there, in the grander rooms, the golden birds are still polished each morning. The imperial consorts still change their robes each day, the ministers still submit their memorials, and the emperor, whoever he may be, still sits on that throne, carrying the shadows of countless men like him who quietly keep the great wheel of power turning. But once again, he returns to the truth he knows best. Everything passes. Every seat will change, every voice will fade, and only a few things will remain, like the scent of jasmine tea in a cold stone room, like the soft sound of cloth brushing across the hallway floor, like the nameless memories he has kept all his life. He closes his eyes, not from fatigue, not from sleepiness, but because he wants to hold on to one last image, the small oil lamp and the shadow of himself, not in a mirror, but in memory. A breeze slips across the tiled roof. Branches brush softly against the door. A small bell rings somewhere in the distance, a sound as gentle as a farewell. He does not rise again. There's no need. Tomorrow will unfold as it always has, as if he had never been here. Someone will clean this room. Someone will wipe the tea table. Someone might ask his name, but they'll forget it soon after. Because that is how everything has always worked in the Forbidden City. People like him come and go without a sound. Only time remembers. And now, as you listen to me, your eyes half closed, your mind drifting into quiet, know this. In some distant time, there was once a man like him. A man who lived his entire life without a name, without children, without love. Only presence, only duty. And yet, with every silent step he took, he held an empire together. His final night had no morning, no music, no horns or drums, only wind, cold tea, and the last flicker of light in a small room. And now, just as he once did, you too may close your eyes, and let the darkness gently fold around another passing day. There is nothing to fear, nothing to worry about. Everything is still moving. Everything is still quiet, like one final gentle breath in the heart of a palace that has fallen asleep. If you're still here with me after everything you've just heard, then thank you. Thank you for not turning away from a story with no hero, no triumph, no dazzling ending. Because sometimes it is the stories that no one tells that deserve to be heard the most. That man, nameless, without rank, without any clear power, lived his entire life just to exist in the spaces between an empire's gears. He left behind nothing grand. No one built a statue in his honor. No one wrote books about him. But you heard him. You saw him. And perhaps that is enough. Somewhere within the vast and indifferent flow of history, countless lives have been forgotten. People who walked in silence, who gave up things that could never be named, just to keep the world running. They were shadows, but it is because of them that the light could remain. So if tonight your heart feels still, if something quiet has brushed against it, don't rush to push it away. Let it stay just a little longer. Because sometimes, a single moment of silence is the only way we can honor what cannot be put into words. Sleep is drawing near now. You don't have to remember everything. Just hold on to this feeling, this sense that somewhere behind the stone walls, beneath all the gold and splendor, there is a world that is deeper, quieter, more real. And if you wake tomorrow still thinking of that man, remember him with gentleness, because sometimes the greatest act of kindness is not in changing the world, but in quietly listening to a story no one else was willing to stop for. Sleep well, my friend.